Have you ever wanted a safe and loving place to come to spark that good feeling in yourself? Well, you've arrived. Welcome to the Om Show with Tanya Butson. In this space, Tanya encourages you to view yourself through love. This new energy allows you to become brave, to take the first step towards healing and thriving. Get ready to step into a level of self-worth never before experienced. With Tanya, a leader in the field of human potential, you will shift from longing to creating to discover that there is something better, and you will never ever have to settle for being in a state of perpetual darkness again. The Om Show with Tanya starts now. Hello, everyone. I'm Tanya Butson, and you are listening to the Show on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour. Each Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and 12 p.m. Eastern Time, we will have some of the most interesting stories, tips, and guests helping you to be all that you are. Today, I want to enlighten you on some facts about near-death experiences. I'm excited to give you a look at a more spiritual concept of what happens to those who experience near death and come back to us. Let's go deeper into this interesting subject. But first, I invite listeners to call into the show at 1-800-930-2819 if you've ever experienced a near-death occurrence or know somebody close to you and you can chime in on this topic. I'd love to hear from you. So again, 1-800-930-2819. And you can always write into us during this live through the little chat things that are underneath the Facebook Live and on the network website. So please send in your comments or call in. I'm really, I don't know why I was called to want to talk about this subject. I just kind of blurted it out at the end of one show. I changed what I was going to do. And I've had a heck of a time with technology to get this episode up and running to you today. So I'm not sure if I'm not supposed to be telling you this information, but anyway, here we are. So let's get into it. I did find it quite difficult to find the information that I was interested in reading and learning about this topic. There was a lot of scientific data, and that's not really my jive. I want to know more about the spiritual aspect of being human and all of the things that happen, including near death, as a human being. I do believe, we are souls living that human experience. And so I wanted to learn more about it. So upon my research, I had a little bit of a roadblock with that at the beginning. And then I've had 3 computer issues with this topic, trying to get this ready for you. So I'm going to go with what I got. And so here it is. For this segment, I want to talk about Dr. Bruce Greyson, who is a professor at the University of Virginia. And he is an expert in the near-death experience. Now, he does in my opinion, a more scientific side of research, and is always looking for subjects to analyze and get statistics for his research. So I'm going to just tap on his work a little bit because there is a great merit there, but I'm not going to focus on that. I got some good chunky stuff for the rest of the show that definitely speaks to me a little bit more, and I'm sure this audience as well. So Dr. Bruce Greyson, very interesting fellow from what I can tell, reading up on him. He does great work in near-death experiences. So I want to just kind of go over the basics through his work and his words in this segment. So let's hop into what it actually is, and let's go from there. So near-death experiences are intensely vivid and often life-transforming experiences, many of which occur under extremely physiological conditions such as trauma, ceasing of brain activity, deep general anesthesia, or cardiac arrest, in which no awareness or sensory experiences of any kind should be possible. We see this a lot on television, on the doctor shows, where people will go into cardiac arrest, and all of a sudden you see these near-death experiences being told. And the ones that I've watched, I don't watch a ton of TV, but the ones that I have seen are all very similar to what I'm about to tell you. So I'm sure you already know what I'm going to say, because it is rampant out there for the information and what we do see visually when we are watching movies or television programs. A near-death experience, or NDE, is a common pattern of events that many people experience when they are experiencing intense threat, are seriously ill, or come close to death. Then I pulled out the dictionary and I went, well, what does it mean from the dictionary? So I got the Britannica out, and near-death experience is an occurrence in which a person comes very close to dying and has memories of a spiritual experience, such as meeting dead friends and family members or seeing a white light during the times when death was near. Although near-death experiences vary from one person to another, they often include such features as the following. So they all kind of seem to be very, very similar in a few aspects, but then they can be varying in others. So these are some of those varying ways where people will experience this a little differently from one another. Feeling very comfortable and free of pain. A sensation of leaving the body, sometimes being able to see the physical body while floating above it. The mind functioning more clearly and more rapidly than usual. A sensation of being drawn into a tunnel of darkness. A brilliant light, sometimes at the end of the tunnel. A sense of overwhelming peace, well-being, or absolute unconditional love. A sense of having access to unlimited knowledge. A life review or recall of important events in the present life that they're living. A preview of future events yet to come, and encounters with deceased loved ones or with other beings that may be identified as religious figures. That, like, whew, sounds really interesting. While these features are commonly reported, many near-death experiences differ from this pattern and include other elements. For example, some near-death experiences may be frightening or distressing rather than peaceful. That is not the norm, no. The peaceful experience seems to be the most prominent experience for people. There are 4 core elements of a near-death experience, though. The cognitive component of the near-death experience includes features related to changes in thought process. So there's a distortion of one's sense of time. And then there is this acceleration of thoughts. Panoramic life review. This is really, really common and vivid for most people, and a sense of sudden understanding. I wonder if that's more like a sudden understanding, but I don't know. This was more my scientific guy. Grayson presents his research in a new book called After, which is bound by a series of case studies. The accounts are mystical, like those we know from TV and books, but there are common themes. After a bad reaction to anesthesia, one patient recalled, I found myself in a meadow, mind cleared, identity intact. The meadow, she went on, was lit with glorious, radiant light, like no light we've ever seen. And a gentle inner glow shone from each and every plant. Most episodes involve similar feelings of wonder, mental clarity, and bliss. Grayson says some people recall out-of-body experiences or report traveling through a long tunnel. Others meet entities they think of as God or Allah or long dead family members. Some feel time bend and warp as though it was elastic. Once a policeman who almost died during surgery asked Grayson, how do you describe a state of timelessness where there's nothing progressing from one point to another, where it's just all there and you're totally immersed in it? Another person recalled, the energy of my spirit seemed to flow like a great whale gliding through a sea of silent euphoria. Given that near-death experiences happen with limited warning, they are almost impossible to test. Obviously, we're dealing with a very short space of time. And Grayson says, a swimmer is trapped underwater, a roofer falls from a ladder, a bystander peering down at their phone is struck by a car. There's no way to test this, and that's what keeps it a great mystery, I believe. So I want to continue on, though, in the next segment from a more spiritual standpoint with a different doctor. You are listening to The Om Show with Tanya Butson. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to learn more about near-death experiences. Stay tuned. We're back on the Show with Tanya Butson. Before we continue, I want to make sure everyone knows how to contact me. You can reach me on my website, organicallymeta.ca, or email me at organicallymeta@outlook.com. I have amazing services to offer everyone globally around the world. Heal Your Life coaching is done via Zoom. It's a coaching based on the philosophies of Louise Hay and learning to love yourself. Reiki in person at my office, and long distance through energy, and intuitive readings and meditation can be done over Zoom as well. These services get clients results. Message me for your appointment and let's get working together and create your best life. I have been talking in the first segment about near-death experiences based on the work of Dr. Grayson. Now I want to hop into the work of Dr. Raymond Moody and his he would consider himself, I would believe, probably scientific too, but I resonated with him a little bit more because it was less white coat and a little bit more white light. So that is why I chose to do the rest of the show based on Dr. Moody's work. He's also this very cute, elderly senior man with probably a Georgian or Louisiana accent, and well, that's irresistible. So I am more drawn towards Dr. Moody's work. He is a medical doctor and philosophy professor. I also believe, although it wasn't really stated, but in something that he was saying, it sounds like he was also maybe a psychiatrist or is a psychiatrist as well. So he's a very fascinating man and very easy to listen to. And he concurs with Dr. Grayson that not all people experience the same experiences near death. And he has got so many stories of people he has interviewed and different ways that he engages them and tests them for let me just say I was watching his information about near-death experiences, and I just went on to listen to him about the afterlife and then about reincarnation. And he's just really fascinating. So anyway, if you get a chance to look him up, do so. Many will hear the doctor say, he says, "Oh my God, we've lost her," which is surprising to them as they have never felt so alive. This is the person who's supposed to be dying. They've never felt so alive when that doctor said they were dead. From their point of view, they distance themselves from their physical body and watch the scene of resuscitation from above it. I've seen that a lot on TV, and in this research, I have that across the board, the majority, if it's taking place in a hospital, the patient that's dying is watching their resuscitation from above. And it's very vivid and it's very full of light, even though in the human state of that, it's an operating room, just with your surgical lights there. So they are watching from above, and they wake up and believe that this must have to do with something about death. They enter into states of consciousness where there are no words for it. It's just basically indescribable when people do come back and try to use words to give a good offering of what they had just experienced. Very often it's difficult or almost impossible to do so. They go through a passageway through a beautiful light. They feel comfort, peace, and joy. They meet with relatives and friends of them who have died, and they go through panoramic memory, in which everything they ever done is displayed in a holographic, in a three-dimensional panorama. So this was really interesting. Just this topic is very fulfilling, let me tell you. So just this panoramic review is so detailed and vivid, and they get to in seconds just see their entire life go before them, and they come back from this experience with a totally new take on life, thinking that the most important thing we can do while we are here, what do you think that is? I want you to think, what is it? What's the most important thing we can do while we're here in this lifetime? Okay, shout out your answer. Well, they come back with this huge want to learn how to love. And maybe this is why I've been pulled to this topic, because I did not know that this topic was going to lead to the fact that we're talking about love now. But yeah, isn't that amazing? So they come back to learn more about love, and they have no more fear of death. They feel that death is just a transition to a new reality. So not everyone that comes close to death report it, and there is no reason why some do and some don't. It has nothing to do with religion, age, or the injury that brought them close to death. So those are very key factors, like on the scientific aspect of this topic, that there seems to be no rhyme or reason statistically as to why some will report it, some won't, and why some have these experiences and others don't. Also, this happens quite regularly when the body has an outer body experience and goes somewhere else in the hospital. This was so cool. So when they have these outer body experiences, often in the hospital, they will actually travel the hallways or just outside the building of the hospital. But most of them will go down the hallways checking out their relatives who are sitting there waiting for them and listening in on their conversations, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and watching their relatives and seeing how they are behaving about, their surgery that they're going in, or the illness that they're suffering with. So they go down the hallways and see a relative waiting during their surgery, and we'll hear conversations going on about them. And then when their life is saved, they recount the conversation to their family member and give them a really good shock, because they're like, oh, oh my gosh, you heard me? Like, what happened? Like, how could that even, like, they're just in disbelief. How can that happen? And then they're kind of going, oh my gosh, what did I say? So and that experience usually changes the family member's life completely and totally as well. So you got to mind your words at that time. Mind your words and your manners. Near-death experiences of the transcendent nature occur in some dimension of reality that is totally displaced from this physical realm that we are in. So we couldn't prove the existence of a transcendent life after death by proving that someone saw something while their body here. These do occur, but how do we know? So did you catch that? I'm going to read that one again. Near-death experiences of the transcendent nature occur in some dimension of reality. Okay, it's not this dimension, it's a different dimension that is totally displaced from this physical realm that we are in. And so we couldn't prove that the existence of the transcendent life after death by proving that someone saw something while out of body, with their body here in the physical realm. And it occurs, but how do we know? It's a mind twister. So what is it that leaves the body at the point of death? It is the I. And you hear me talking about remembering who you are. This is kind of a similar thing. It is the I that is the subject of your story. As soon as you're out of your body, you're out of this story. And the getting out of the body is just like getting out of the role that you're in and headed towards another role. And in some cases, you get pulled back into the same role. What is the transformation of the identity that takes place between when you go from this realm of existence, which is time and space, to a state of existence that is not based on temporal or spatial features, but rather it is like everything is either information or love. In this world, to get information, you have to get a computer or a book. In the other dimension, just to formulate the thought that you want to know something, zaps it into preview automatically. So cool. So that is, you got to really hang on to my words there to kind of understand that. But basically, in this reality that we are living here on Earth, there is this concept of time and space, but it's all just an illusion anyway, but that I won't get into that. But there's time and space in our reality here. However, when you go to that near-death experience, you're in a different dimension where there is no time or space. And in the example, if you're going to look for some information, it's automatic, like it's just downloaded immediately. You know the answer there. It's just all knowing. Whereas here we have to go to a computer or book to research it. So the whole point of that is to talk about the time and space here and there and how it doesn't exist there. So hold on to that thought. I'd like to make sure we have plenty of time to continue on this topic. Don't forget to call in with any, well, I don't know if I got the answers to the questions on this topic today, but I did do a lot of reading and watching of some videos, so I might be able to help out on simple things. But definitely look up Dr. Raymond Moody and, download his book or buy his book, and same with Dr. Grayson, his book After, because there's a ton of really interesting information that I'm not even covering. This is just the basics. So call in if you've got any experience with this, 1-800-930-2819. I'm Tanya Butson, and you are listening to The Show. Let's take a short break. Stay tuned. We will be right back. We are back on the Show with Tanya Butson. We have been talking about near-death experiences. Now I'd like to spend some time elaborating on that and consciousness. Again, this might be a reason why I was pulled to this unknowingly, because I love everything consciousness. This is why I love meditation so much. It takes you into a different consciousness. Doing oracle card readings takes you into a different consciousness. Being here on the Show right now is taking me into a different consciousness. This is a consciousness of trust. So I wanted to talk about consciousness and the relation to it with near-death experiences. So consciousness is one of those topics, things that is about far down on the word scale as you can get in terms of actually giving it a definition. So it's very hard to describe unless you are experiencing it consciously. So the consciousness is narrative directed. That is in your life when a new event takes place that you're conscious of, you weave it into your longer life story. And when you get out of body in the other realm, you still have contact with the narrative in your life, the physical life, when you're in a timeless and spaceless realm. How can you continue the conscious existence we have now, because it only exists with time and space in our theory, yet it does still exist when there is no time and there is no space. And there is no known answer to this at this time that we are aware of. So I definitely don't have the answer for you, but so then that goes a little bit further into what I was learning about the afterlife and reincarnation. And I believe that has something to do in that consciousness state that allows one in the physical state to experience these physical stories and then be able in the transition and shifting into the conscious state of near death or afterlife of recalling the physical state story. Really got to think, like, you have to think about what this is all about. So I think in this episode, we are just, scraping the surface of information about what this is, because it is so deep. It's so, it totally stumps our experts and scientists, like and doctors. Like they can't seem to figure it out. Now, if we go back to philosophers like Plato, they might have some answers to that. I still have to read some more, but let's get back to the basics here. The near-death experience affects people profoundly with predictable effects. Now, we kind of went over that in the first segment. The most dramatic one is that whatever they are chasing in life, like power, fame, and knowledge, when people come back from this experience, they say what this is all about is learning to love. This is what comes forward in your life review. It also doesn't make any of this any easier. So I'm going to give you an example of that, because that, again, is kind of a tricky notion as well, because you're out there chasing your dreams. But when you have these experiences, you come back and you know that the importance of life is learning to love. So, for example, this experience makes your humanity even more of a burden in a way, meaning, let's face it. Let's face it. It is very difficult to get through a day without wanting to choke another person. Welcome to the show where we're all about love. No, seriously. There are days where, it's frustrating living on this planet, and it can be difficult. So you might not be able to get through a day with not wanting to choke another person. And the reality that stays the same is they come back realizing that the importance of the quest to love, but they find themselves still in the human situation. And this is the first after effect. So that being that they are living the human experience, which isn't always easy. They go over and see their panoramic review, and they come back going, oh, I was chasing all the wrong things, and that we are all human here doing the human experience, and we're all distracted, and what we all need to be focusing on is learning how to love one another. And the world is very divisive, and this is the contrast that we're seeing from being in the physical realm to being over in the near-death experience consciousness realm. And this after effect of coming back to earth, going that nothing exists but learning to love and being love. If you're I hope you're following me. It makes sense in my mind. The second after effect, it eliminates the fear of death. Not that they want to find themselves in a painful, awful death. Instead, they interpret death as a transition to a more desirable realm of existence. So they have no more fear of death. And I really wonder if that is actual truth, that we were programmed to believe that death is a scary, awful, permanent experience. And these people that have experienced it and are coming back, they all tell the same story, that it was usually very euphoric and lovely. It's just a transition from one consciousness to another, and nothing more than that. Another after effect, and this is more rare, but there are lots of cases of it, so it still matters, is the inspiration for artistic creativity. I find this really cool. One can develop an interest in the piano, for example, and they may have recurrent dreaming of performing the same piece of music on a concert stage. And then out of the blue, a friend says, will you store my piano for me? And then the person becomes, stored the piano and started playing and practicing. And then all of a sudden they become a renowned concert pianist. as they now play the piano, they are storing, right? So all while in their original life, they were an esteemed orthopedic surgeon. So this is so cool because, I can see the orthopedic surgeon, like they have to have major dexterity skills to do that kind of work. Um, so it's kind of like the piano in a sense. Orthopedic could be creative for sure, but there is definitely, a routine way of doing that procedure. Whereas the piano is, there is so much creativity with that. So I just find it really interesting that during that near-death experience, that these people are wanting to come back with this creative flair when they've been very, scientific in one aspect of their human life, and they come back and they become all of a sudden this famous concert pianist. So profound changes can happen with these experiences. Many people after the near-death experience had some new talent, and most common one is that they become more perceptive about people. They seem to become more empathetic and can feel people's emotions and feelings. Well, I think that's probably a good thing. With complete certainty, that is astonishing, is this life review we've been talking about. The physical environment disappears, yet everything they have ever done is around them in a holographic panorama. And there is no time. They are in a standstill. And when they witness it, they don't see it with their eyes like we do here. Okay, wait for it. This is so interesting. Rather, it is embedded empathically of the consciousness of the person they are interacting with. Okay, you following me? They don't see it from their own eyes. They see it from the person that they're interacting with. So for example, if you did something hurtful to someone, then you are that person that's been hurt, and you're feeling directly and with empathy the sadness you brought to that person. Same for the good feelings. So for at least for some of us, life is a two-faced process. The actor on earth, then time to stand still, and then there is a 180 turn right around, witnessing the perspective of the other characters. It's mind-blowing. This stuff is so cool. When someone comes back from the near-death experience, are they in a third phase of life? That's a really good question. They are appointed to watch over the living and the dead, like one foot in this world and one foot somewhere else. So how do you get back from this? One theory is no idea. They don't know. Another theory is somebody there told them, like a dead relative, you have to go back. But I don't want to go back. And they are forced back because they aren't finished here yet. And it can be very frustrating for the person coming back, as they are never told why they must go back. Such a human experience, isn't it? You never know why you're going through the suffering until you learn the lesson. So they don't know why they have to go back until they eventually figure it out by what life experiences are coming to them. A third idea is that they are given a choice. Go on with the experience you are having, or go back to the life you were leading. The reason is almost every case is that they come back on behalf of someone else. Yeah. For themselves, they want to stay. This is so hard. They want to stay there, but they go back to take care of someone, like a child that they left behind, and they go back to raise the child. And it's usually always to care for someone. Oh, heavy, 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 heavy. Because I bet when you see that white light and you feel that peace and euphoria, you just want to go like, feel free to send me an email at organicallymeta@outlook.com or DM me on Facebook and Instagram. I always love connecting with you guys from all over the world. We're going on a quick break, and when we return, we will conclude all the fascinating details you need to know about near-death experiences. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Show. I've been discussing what happens to people with near-death experiences and why they come back to their Earth life. Now, I'd like to sum up a few thoughts about near-death experiences and what it all entails. So let's go through these last few points before the end of the show. When people see their relatives when they died, they don't see them at any particular age. You recognize it as your aunt, for instance, but there is no physical presence of them. There is a form, and you recognize from the feelings and memories who this is, despite the fact there is no physicality to it. That's so cool. So that just comes back to the fact that everything is energy. Our souls are energy, and you are, it doesn't matter what this meat suit that we're all in looks like, or yeah, it's all about the energy that you give off as this soul essence. And it's really phenomenal. And I just really urge everybody to get more in touch with their energetic part of their being. And a good way to start that is through Reiki. Just go lay down and receive some energy work, and you'll start to tap into it with regular sessions. So after a near-death experience, many believe in reincarnation. But how can one see your aunt who is dead, but is also reincarnated in a new life? It is contradiction. However, if you remove time from this thought, then you can rationalize the experience of knowing they exist in more than one place at one time. So this is the multidimensional concept of consciousness and being able to shift into one realm and dimension into the other, while being here in the third dimensional matrix of Earth. So yeah, lots to think about. And time is an illusion too. Don't forget that. There is no such thing as time. Good segue. You realize this as you get older. There is no independent existence except in the physical dimension. Near-death experience people say that the state of consciousness they are in does not have a time component. So, and I have found that with getting older, man, time goes by fast, or so it seems, but is it really just standing still? I've also experienced that, where I found time has stood still on the clock, and it seems like it's been hours, and it hasn't, or I don't know, because it doesn't exist. It doesn't matter. So yeah, just get a little bit more mindful about time and pay attention and see what starts happening. People choose to come back, and it raises some anomalies with the medical world, because the medical world will say they worked hard to bring them back and they saved their life. But when the person comes back, the person says, no, I chose to come back. So there is no clear solution to this logic that are beyond literal sense. The life review is the most phenomenal part, likely, of near-death experience for somebody to go through an experience and see everything that they have done and review it from the point of view of the other people involved, and that no time has passed while you're doing it. And it totally changes their life. it's like this completely incredible phenomena that is indescribable. There are rare negative experiences of near death, and this is an underreporting problem that it is rare, most likely. The negative are spread out all over the place and does not seem to be an internal coherence of them. And there are three types. People experience it dysphorically. Another type is where, excuse me, there are hellish visions and flames, but that's the rarest experience of all. And they can be very patchy, and the images are vivid, but they don't fit together very well. Suicide attempts are another type of negative NDE, and most say they would never attempt it again because you would have to witness the after effects of your actions on your loved ones, right? In that life story that you left behind. It also feels like walking out in the middle of the movie, that if it had completed, the sadness would be that they never knew how the rest of their story played out. So that is a really interesting perspective of those that had NDE while trying suicide, and it failed and they have come back. So something to think about there. People describe overall the near-death experience as one of the complete compassion and love. Religion does not really factor into these experiences. After NDE, religious affiliations tend to dissipate, and there becomes a more personal relationship with God rather than an ideological religion. Culture plays a role in the articulation of the experience, but it usually comes with admission that it is not adequate. It is the only one available to them. Where you are from does not particularly play a factor in NDE, and being a human being is much the same all over the world in regards to near-death experiences. Near-death experiences transcends culture all over the world. One basically leaves one's body and goes on a trip, like a travel narrative, like a journey to another world. But the paradox is the travel story depends on space and time, and the story is very moving. However, there is no spatial or temporal in the near-death experience. So this leads us to question, is the physical reality an illusion? Near-death experience is a reality. It is an illusionary, narrative-driven thing where we are in. However, we finish this one story, we experience an incomprehensible process, and then back onto another storyline. So I do question if when we come back from a near-death experience, if that's the third story, because the change in the person is so dramatic. And there is life after death, so slow down a little bit and enjoy life, because this is a unique experience and you will get out of it alive. Don't be afraid of death and stay here as long as your story says. And when you leave, then it will all make sense. If you want to take the leap and change your life 360, contact me, Tanya at Organically Meta. I am helping real people find authentic solutions to life's problems and move into being all that you are. To learn more about my business and services, follow Organically Meta on Facebook and Instagram. You can also reach out to me directly at organicallymeta.ca and organicallymeta@outlook.com for email. To start the journey of remembering who you are and creating your best life, I leave you each week with 3 words. I love myself. I want to thank you all for tuning into the Show today. I am deeply thankful for your presence and time. Please join me every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific and 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Next week on The Om Show, I will replay my very first episode of The Om Show, which featured Dr. Pat Basili and our discussion about perpetual darkness in life. In the meantime, make it a great week, and I will see you back here again next week.
You have been listening to The Om Show with Tanya Butson on Transformation Talk Radio. Tune in every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, where Tanya encourages you to experience yourself through love. This new energy allows you to become brave, to take the first step towards healing and thriving. Shift from longing to creating, to discover that there is something better. You will never ever have to settle for being in a state of perpetual darkness again. For more information, visit organicallymeta.ca. Again, organicallymeta.ca.